Hey everybody, Jem Schofield here with the C47 and another episode of Gearbox. First day back in the Bat Cave for a long time, and really a quick setup today because I just had to throw up a key, threw up some foam core just so that there was a little bit of fill here. Nothing fancy, and we've got yet another rain, snow, ice, sleet storm outside. It's starting to become normal, which is kind of freaky. I guess I'm starting to understand how people live in places like Russia and Canada and, I don't know, North Dakota. And I don't know, you just sort of get used to it. You might not like it. I know some people do like it, but you might not like it, but you get used to it. So it is what it is. Okay, so here's the deal. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about shutter speed today, because one of the huge challenges we have when we're shooting with DSLR cameras is when we're trying to shoot interviews. When we're shooting interviews, we need to give that talent a little bit of room to move around. They might want to move forward a little bit. They might want to move backwards a little bit. And if we're shooting at an f2.8 with a full frame sensor like in the 5D Mark II, and we're using a longer focal length, you know, we're shooting in 85, 100, a 150, then we're also getting more of a compressed background, which is giving the apparency of a shallow depth of field. And it's just off the charts. The person cannot move. It's insane. So what do? Well, the goal is that we want to stop the camera down. We want to change that aperture. If we're on the longer side of a lens, we might need to be at least on a full frame sensor, an f5.6, an f8. That's going to give the person who's being interviewed a little bit of freedom to move around and not to have, you know, them go out of focus if they lean a little bit forwards, lean a little bit backwards. So there's some tricks here. We want to keep that ISO as low as possible. We want to keep our shutter speed to as close to double the frame rate as we can. Shooting at 24, we want a 48th. On a DSLR, we have to set it to a 50th. Shooting at 30 frames per second, we want to set it to a 60th. But if there isn't a tremendous amount of movement in that frame, if you're not seeing people walk on and off the frame a lot, there's not cars going in and out of the frame, then we can cheat a little bit. And for instance, if we're shooting an interview at 30 frames per second, so we normally have the shutter set to a 60th, and then we set the shutter to a 30th, we gain a full stop of light. If we were shooting, depending on our lighting situation, at a 1250 ISO, that means we could reduce our ISO to a 640. Cleaner image. If we're shooting at a 50th, because we're shooting at 24 frames per second, and we went down to a 30th, we would gain 2/3 of a stop of light. And that can make a big difference, because then we might be going from 1250 to 800, and still a big deal. So the trick is, I think somebody's calling me, mess with the shutter. What you see is what you get, and if it looks good, it looks good. I'll see you guys next time on Gearbox.